today I'm going to talk a little bit about pensions. So, what the first thing you need to know is this applies to anyone who is involved with public employee retirement system PERS, police and fire retirement system, which is obviously for police and firemen, or the TPAF, which is the teacher pension annuity fund, or the teachers. So in the state of New Jersey, those are the three pension systems. There's also for state police, which is similar but a separate pension system. But the three main ones are the teachers, the public employees, and the police and fire, and apply to state workers, county workers, town workers, municipalities, board of eds, all of the kinds of things, any kind of police or fireman, depending on where you are, which district. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today, but more importantly, how that sort of interacts with both workers' comp and Social Security disability. So the first thing to know is if in fact you become disabled, either or unable to do your job, either because of a work-related situation, a work accident, or a non-work related accident, you have the ability to apply for and potentially receive a disability pension. Now, there are a couple of requirements, and the requirements actually go by way of the whichever pension system you're in. So teachers and public employees, they're one set of rules, and then police and fire, they have a slightly different set of rules and different benefits. So the first thing to know is if I have been injured or I am sick and cannot do my job for some reason that has absolutely nothing to do with work. This is sort of the easier of the two to discuss. And that would mean that if you're in teachers and public employees and have more than 10 years in the system, you are eligible. But if you have been injured or if you have a sickness, illness, disease, whatever it may be, unrelated to work, then you are eligible to apply for ordinary disability pension as long as, again, for public employees and teachers, as long as you have more than 10 years in the system. Now, for police and fire, your only requirement is to have more than 4 years in the system. So for what's called ordinary disability pension. And basically what that means is so when it comes to pensions, no matter what across the board, what we have to demonstrate is that you are disabled in some way and unable to perform the job duties that they outline in the civil service job description. That's it. Now, becomes much more complicated, but the gist of the story is that they have a job, you have your job title, there's a job description, and if you have some condition that prevents you from doing your job, then you are eligible to apply for those benefits. Now, the reason I say that is because the specific doctor form that pensions requires you fill out no matter what we're doing here asks, are you permanently and totally disabled from the performance of your regular or assigned job duties? So the doctors sort of get a little crazy because they see the words permanently, totally disabled, but they got to read the whole sentence, and that is just from doing your specific job. So it doesn't have to be that you can't go back and ever do some work out there. That's not what we have to show. All we have to demonstrate is that you're unable to do the specific job duties as is required by the Division of Pensions and Benefits under civil service. Okay, so that's ordinary. Now, if you are in if you're in public employees and teachers, you're eligible for 46.3% of the highest years of earnings. Those are taxable dollars. And and this is a huge if your job, your employer, participates in the state health benefit plan, then you would also be eligible to have health insurance into your disability retirement. So, of course, the first question says, well, how do I know if my employer participates in the state health benefit plan? Well, there's two ways to find that out. The first is contact your employer, HR, human resources, personnel, whomever, and say, hey, do we participate in the state health benefit plan? Now, if you have Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield as your insurance, you do. There are other insurances, but then you have to check to see if, in fact, your employer is participating. And sometimes the employers participate for some years and then they don't participate for some years. So if you're looking to apply for your pension and you're considering or need that health insurance into disability retirement, you absolutely want to make sure, first off, that the employer participates in the state health benefit plan. The second way to do it is to contact pensions themselves. But right now, based on the lack of manpower, woman power, power in general that they have at the state of New Jersey, that's a difficult task unless you sort of pack a picnic, breakfast, and lunch and just sort of put yourself on hold for an entire day. But so, but that's for police. I'm sorry, that's for public employees and teachers. Now, for the police and fire, ordinary disability is only 40%. It is also those are also taxable dollars, and and again, same rules apply as to the state health benefit plan if the employer participates therein. Okay, so mechanically, how do you do it? So basically, you have to have two doctors that say you can't do your job. They fill out the form. I usually take my clients on MBOSS together. We do it over Zoom so everybody can see what I'm doing. And we do the application, takes about 20 minutes online. Then we gather all the medical records, we gather all the other forms that are necessary, and we send all of that to pensions. Pension starts to process the application. And then after that, they will send you to a doctor of theirs. And then all of that information will go back to the pension board and they'll make an initial decision. If denied, yes, you have the right to appeal, which is when I come in because that's all the litigation that we handle. All right. So that's ordinary. Accidental disability pension is greater dollars, greater amount of litigation. And the issue there is because it happened at work. Now, there are several main reasons why the pension boards will deny an accidental disability pension. The first and foremost is that they're going to say you're not disabled at all. So when it comes to the accidental, the primary reason that they're going to say it is because that you are not disabled. Now, where do they get to that conclusion? Okay, you send a stack of medical records like this. You send two doctors that you've treated with that say that you're disabled, and the pension board sends you for one evaluation with one of their stable of doctors. And I'm going to be kind this morning and use that the way I really not want to say it, but we're going to call the stable of doctors. Okay, and they write a report that says, yeah, you know what? I've looked at it and I gave this person a 5-minute evaluation and, they're able to go do their job. And so the pension board says, oh, well, our expert says they can go do their job. So we're just going to deny them their pension. And if you think that I am joking, and if you think that this is in some way, I'm not serious, dead serious as a heart attack, you're absolutely wrong. This is exactly why the pension board denies people their benefits. The only reason that they're denying people for this reason, which is for being totally disabled, is because their one-time independent medical examiner, and they're about as independent as Donald Trump, the independent medical examiner says, yeah, you know what? No, not disabled. So the board relies on that, forgetting the mountain of information that you've provided. So then they deny you, and then now we got to go fight about that in court. That's the primary reason. Now, the second reason that you can get denied an accidental disability pension is because the doctor says, and in fact, I was working on a file like this morning. The doctor says, no, I think they're disabled, but I think that the disability isn't caused by the work accident. I think that the work accident aggravated a pre-existing condition. Therefore, I don't think they're eligible for the accidental disability pension. Now, sometimes that might be true, because I want to be somewhat fair to this discussion. Sometimes that can be true. But first of all, that's not what the law says that we have to prove. So that's first. And the situation that I was dealing with this morning that I can show you as to how they deny these things is as follows. So our client gets hurt and goes for an MRI for her neck. And guess what? It shows, because she's in her late 50s, that she has some form of degenerative changes going on in her neck. Now, the issue here is that prior to this work accident, this woman had never had any problems with her neck, had never treated with a doctor for her neck, had never needed any treatment for her neck, had no issues. She gets the ever-loving tar beat out of her at work. Now the doctors want to do a 3-level fusion. The MRI shows that there's some degenerative changes. And so the IME doctor, the independent medical doctor, says, oh, it's an aggravation of a pre-existing condition because she has these degenerative changes going on in there. You want to bang your head on the table, because what the law actually says, and what the pension board tends to ignore, is the fact that all we have to prove is that the work accident is, ready, the substantial cause of the disability. Substantial cause of the disability. Not that the accident is the only reason this person has a neck problem, but we have to prove that the accident is the substantial cause of the disability. So in the example that I'm talking to you about, where this person never had a prior problem, has the work accident, and the doctors are recommending a 3-level cervical fusion, one could easily argue that that might be pretty substantial. And so when we get into the litigation and we try the case, all right, we're going to have a lot of fun beating the bejesus out of the independent medical examiner, because his report is ridiculous. So, but that's the second reason. Second reason is that it's an aggravation of a pre-existing condition. The third reason, and this is a fun one, the third reason is the pension board says that the accident itself, the way in which the accident happened itself, is not what they call undesigned or unexpected, which basically means that when you went to work that day, you should have known that this was exactly how you were going to get injured. And the perfect example that I can give you about this is, we had a case where it's a corrections officer and she's opening the gate, and all of a sudden the gate stops and her shoulder gets ripped out because the gate stops, mechanically stops. Now, there's no notice that this had ever happened. There's no issues written in any of the logbooks indicating that there was a problem. She had no notice about this, and in fact, earlier that day had used the same gate with no issue. And the board said, no. We're going to deny you because we think that is not undesigned and unexpected. It's an old facility. She should have known that that was going to happen. And I am not kidding. And so we litigated the case and we won in front of the judge, and it went back to the board, and the board said, yeah, no, we're going to ignore what the judge just said. We are going to stand by our original opinion. And we went to the appellate division, and the appellate division said, no, Board of Pensions, you're interpreting this way too strictly. This needs to be expanded, and she absolutely gets her benefits. But that takes 2.5 to 3 years to get from point A to point B on an issue that the pension board should know well. But here's the answer. If we deny, then maybe you appeal, maybe you don't appeal. Maybe you get a lawyer, maybe you don't get a lawyer. Maybe even if you appeal and win, we're going to overturn that. And who knows what the appellate division is going to do. And by the way, we, pension, get the opportunity to hold on to your money for the next 2 to 3 years. And if you don't think that they know that, then you're missing the boat. The pension boards know exactly what they're doing. I've listened to these pension board meetings. They are holier than thou. They think they are defenders of the money, and they don't actually look at the people and by the way, the members of the board that are in front of them. They don't care. They don't care. And so as far as I am concerned, it's sort of become like I love beating up on the pension boards. I love it because no matter what they're doing, it's mind-numbing to me how they are going about systematically denying people their benefits based on very little information. And the problem is that these doctors who again, independent doctors who are looking at you for 5 minutes, 2 minutes, they have a resume that makes them sound like pretty good. Maybe I buy that, maybe I don't. And that's what they're doing. They're playing the odds. So those are the two systems. I wanted to briefly talk about them. There's lots more to go on in terms of a whole bunch of stuff, and that we'll get through during the course of the year for sure. But the only other thing I wanted to talk about is this. Think of it this way. There's three potential systems where you can get benefits if you get hurt at work. Pensions, if you can't go back, your workers' compensation case, and Social Security disability if you're that disabled. The important thing to know is that pensions and Social Security are railroad tracks. Those two benefits are never going to touch one another, which means you can receive benefits from both and they will not be offset by one another. So you can reach the maximum amount of monies from both of those systems if you're disabled and can't go to work. Okay? Railroad tracks won't touch. Workers' comp is wedged in the middle, and the reason for that is because it is affected by both, or it can affect both.